Hello and welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kelby Bachman, and please give it up for the next guest on the show, Blake Williams. So Blake is from Decorah, Iowa, and was a two-time placer for the Vikings. He went on to wrestle at Wartburg and finished 5th as a junior while helping the Knights to their first ever national championship. After graduating, Blake entered the coaching scene with a stint at Center Point-Urbana as an assistant before spending over 20 years as head coach between Solon and Cedar Rapids, Prairie. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy Blake Williams. In the heart of West Union, Iowa, lies a hidden gem in Euphoria Coffee. Owned by local residents Nicole and Shane Havenstreit, they source everything they can from local vendors. From hot and iced drinks, to savory breakfast burritos, to baked goods, to botany tea, and even homemade waffles, Euphoria Coffee is a place your entire family can enjoy. You can find more information at drinkeuphoria.coffee2go.com or visit their Facebook page. And we also have a special gift just for you. Next time you stop in, you can get a free baked good with a $20 purchase. Just mention the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Euphoria Coffee. Our purpose is deeper than coffee.
Wrestling's been a big part of my life, that's for sure, ever since, heck, I can remember. Dating back to the Decorah days where I was born and raised, and up in your neck of the woods there. And my older two brothers wrestled, and they were pretty successful wrestlers, and it just kind of was a part of our family. My dad was a longtime coach at all levels. He was my high school coach. Before that, he was kind of an assistant in junior high for many, 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 many years. But we just got into it early and got some buddies and went to those local tournaments and looked up to both my brothers. I think my oldest brother, Pat, was a state runner-up, and then my other brother, Clint, I think he qualified 3 times for the state tournament. And back then, it wasn't a true wrestleback. Right. And I think each year, I think I remember he'd get beat by the guy that got like 3rd. So he never was able to wrestle back, Yeah. And then, in high school, my freshman year, my dad was still my assistant coach, junior high. Leroy Capriva was my head coach, and then he retired and my dad took over. And I just remember a lot of good stories and good times from then. My freshman and sophomore year, very close to qualifying for state and did not do it. And then my junior year, it got 6th, and senior year 3rd. And that was kind of, the story of high school career. And, it's funny, both of those years, my junior year, you hear stories about this a lot, but I kind of, one of mine came to truth there. I made it to the semifinals and then got 6th, and you hear a lot of stories of that. And, it was, I think Ryan Cummings, he ended up, I think, 2 or 3 times state champion, lost 1 point to him and just didn't bounce back. And then my senior year, it was completely different. That was before, as like the seedings. There were no seedings, and it was luck of the draw or unluck of the draw or whatever you want to do. And my senior year, I got, I don't know if I'd call it upset, but got beat by Kevin Miller, who ended up being my college teammate and best man at my wedding and all that. But in double overtime, and so that means I drew a district champion. And I think I was ranked 2 or 3, I don't know at the time. And I get the number 1 guy, Brad Beeman from Johnston, and lose a real close match to him. He goes on and wins it, I think, pretty easily. But I battled back all the way. I don't know how many matches it was at that time, 5 maybe, got 3rd place. And so kind of like I think I was listening to Coach Mitchell's last week, get the next best thing, is what he said, I think, or something. So that's kind of how all that, took place, but had a lot of good memories, a lot of good training partners. We had great teams. I think we got third in the state once or twice those last couple years. Had the Full Heart brothers with me and good training partners.
I thought you did.
Yeah. So Lee was 1 year below me in school. Howard, his brother, was my classmate. I think Howard was a runner-up a couple times, and of course Lee won it 3 times. So made for a good room and good workout partners. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So you were born and raised in Decorah.
Yep.
Yeah. And what about your family? Like your dad, mom, are they just the whole
they're
family
from Southwest Iowa.
Okay.
Audubon.
Yep.
Southwest Iowa. And that's where all my relatives are from. And it was one of those things where my dad applied for a teaching job up there. And I think he went in for an interview, and on the way out, before he got to his car, the principal basically came out and got him and said, "Job's yours if you want it." And so then we stayed in Decorah the whole rest of the time. No real other family up there, but so he coached and taught 30 some years and retired, and now they live out in Spirit Lake, Iowa, on the lake. So good summer place to visit for sure.
Yeah. So wrestling, when did that come into the picture? Was you have dad, uncles, grandfather, relatives wrestle too?
Not so many relatives. My dad did. Yeah, my dad wrestled for Audubon, and then just with him coaching, I think it just and the older brothers and everything got into it, and a little different back then, as you kind of know. You're not quite as old, but those local tournaments were a little different. You just would go, and there wasn't the AAU stuff and all of that. It was just you just kind of wrestled and load up a van full of buddies and go. That's kind of how it was.
Yeah. Yeah, now you didn't have to go too terribly far like you do now, where you could go to tournaments kind of in your area, and you could get whooped up on, or you could whoop up on, depending.
Yep.
You'd find some really good company, especially up in Northeast Iowa. Now, I might be biased because I'm from there, but I mean, man. Whew.
I remember going to the MFL Bullpup tournament about every year. Remember the old Bullpup? You get those blue bracket. They had pretty nice brackets, I remember, for one of them. So,
yeah. I think possibly you ran into some guy named Chet Bachman and beat up on him once.
Yeah. Chet and I had a pretty good history as a kid. And then I grew, and he really didn't. So never saw him in high school.
Yeah, I texted him. I was like, "Hey, did you ever wrestle Blake?" Because I thought you guys wrestled in high school for some reason. He said, "No, we wrestled at the Bullpup."
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's all he said. I'm like, "Are you gonna tell me how you did?" He was like,
didn't say anything after that.
So I was giving him some shit about that, but
that's good.
So were you good when you were younger, or did you become good?
I would say of my 3 brothers, I was probably the worst growing up. I mean, I remember going to these tournaments, and they would get these wall brackets, and I would be holding this 3rd place medal or something, and they were pretty darn good. And I don't think I got probably, I don't know. I think I started getting better maybe about the middle school ages or junior high ages, and then realized it was a sport I really wanted to do and kind of had more of a passion for. And I think it just kind of progressed. I was one that started off pretty little, and then it was one of those each year just kept growing throughout my high school career physically. So I think my freshman year, I was still a little guy. I was 119 pounds, and then finished my senior year 160 pounds. And then as I went to college, I kept growing, and ended up 190 pounds at Wartburg. Yeah. So it was just kind of one of those slow growths, I guess
Yeah.
you could say, but I think it helped because I was maturing and getting some strength and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about, I know like, I don't know if that time Decorah was good at football, but like they had some spurts where Decorah was really tough at football. Was that ever? I
Yeah.
know
So
you said you
my,
were smaller, so I don't know
yeah.
if you played football,
Well,
but
my older brothers, they were both part of 3 consecutive state titles.
yeah.
I think that was the late '80s, early '90s, and then I think we were always kind of like playoffs, um, but I did a lot. I mean, I did baseball as well too, and baseball was huge in Decorah. Um, Again, that we had won a couple state titles with one of my older brothers' teams, and back then there were only 4 uh, teams that would make the state baseball tournament. Now you have 8 in each
Right.
class, and I think back then there was only 3 classes, and so they had won. I think with my middle brother Clint 2 in a row, and then we made it to the state finals. I think my junior year, and then my senior year, we didn't want to be the team that broke the streak of making it to state because it was like 5 or 6 or years in a row, and my senior year we made it, but got beat in the, I guess you'd call it the semifinals now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, so from what it sounds like you were participating in other sports while you were also wrestling. Like you weren't
oh, you bet.
okay.
Yeah,
You
you
weren't a
bet.
solo
And
wrestler.
yeah, and I think that's you, as a coach, that's what you want to see as well too.
Yeah.
That multi-sport athlete, and that I think the biggest thing with doing multiple sports, yeah, it's great for you, but it's just the idea of competing
Mhm.
and learning how to compete in different settings is so huge. You think about whether it be on the football field or the baseball field or track or golf or whatever, they all have their own you know strengths that you can use mentally,
Yeah.
physically, all of the above. My son has gotten a love for golf, and he has played golf the last couple of years. He started out as not a very good golfer, but he's gotten a lot better. But the mental
Yeah.
part of it, if you blow up on a hole, you got to put it behind you, or on the baseball diamond, you strike out, you got to put it behind you. So that multiple sport athlete is, I think, crucial. And in today's world where the demands of these high school athletes are getting more and more and more, um, you don't maybe see quite as much of that maybe as you did in our days, but
Mhm.
you can sure tell those multiple sport athletes and that they're used to competing, and they're not going to feel the pressure or fold under pressure.
Yeah. And did the rest of your family, it sounds like the rest of your family did multiple sports too, like your
Oh yeah,
brothers.
I think we
Yeah.
all did. My oldest brother Pat went and played football at Northern Iowa.
Wow.
He was I think 3-year starter for them, for the Panthers under Coach Terry Allen back in the day. I remember going to a lot of those games. And yeah, my other brother was a quarterback on the football team and shortstop, for the baseball team. So yeah, sports have been a big part, and that's kind of why I love what I do today. As teaching PE.
Hmm.
I love it at the middle school level. So it's kind of been ingrained from beginning, and I get to have fun and enjoy every day at work with physical education setting.
Yeah, I was going to be a PE teacher. I was basically following in the footsteps of my uncle. Okay. I was going to be a PE teacher and then I was going to coach wrestling. All right. Um, and when I was doing my like shadowing, or whatever it was called before I changed course, they said like middle school teachers, like you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. Like
That's true.
so you must love it.
Oh
Like
yeah, I do. Yeah, kids that age I mean, they're so impressionable, and such a crucial age for kids
for sure.
to
Yeah.
have some, you know, role models in their lives, and yeah, it's been awesome. You did some elementary earlier in my career, and Love that too, but I think I like that middle school age a little bit better as far as teaching goes.
Are you K through 12 certified then?
I am actually K through 8 certified,
Okay.
so I technically couldn't do the high school,
Yeah.
but I have done basically anywhere from K to 8
Hmm.
in there. Actually, did a few years in the classroom as a teacher right out of college, and then fell into a PE position and haven't looked back.
What'd you do out of high school or out of college?
As far as classroom, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. So my first 2 years, I was a fourth grade classroom.
So you were
And
teaching
then,
fourth grade? You were a fourth grade teacher?
yeah. And then that
Oh,
was
really?
my first job was in Center Point, Iowa.
Yeah, yeah.
And then came to Solon and was a third grade classroom teacher for the 4 year stint that I was here.
How was that?
It was great. The kids,
Really? Okay.
yeah, it was great. It was awesome. And then when I went up to Cedar Rapids, Prairie, and got that job, the first couple of years I was a fifth grade classroom teacher. Well, then a PE job opened up in one of the buildings, elementary buildings, and I was able to get that and loved all of that. You know, there's advantages and disadvantages to a PE versus a classroom, but then
Mhm.
and then when I came back here, the middle school PE position was open and took that, and that's where I've been ever since.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, so I work at a YMCA now, and there was a couple like we have opportunities to teach sports to little kids, younger kids, and man, I'm just trying to envision being a kindergarten or like a elementary school PE teacher. The energy you have to bring each class, like you have 45 minutes or whatever, one class leaves, but the next
Yep.
class just brings a whole nother bunch of
Yeah.
energy. And you're like at the
It's
end of
like
the day,
yep.
you gotta
You're
be just
on all
drained.
day. Yeah. There's no
You're,
downtime. You're just
uh,
on all the time. So I don't really miss the kindergarten and that much because you were tying shoes all the time and all that kind of stuff. So I
yeah.
liked it, but yeah, middle school's a little bit better. So yeah.
Yeah, I just and at middle school, like that's when you can kind of start to get in there a little bit and play and give them a little shit, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can kind of
And
give them.
it's good too, because it's kind of a good age to, I wouldn't say recruit, but especially when I was a head coach, I guess it would be because, you'd be trying to get those kids into a wrestling room. And if they hadn't been
Yeah,
in a wrestling room yet, to try to get them in there. And lots of times, once you get them in there, they could be hooked.
right,
Um, I think today the hardest part about um, youth wrestling is trying to get those young boys and young girls now in there and try it, you
right.
know. And but once you do, I think for the majority, they're gonna like it, So that's always kind of
Yeah.
been a big challenge.
Yeah, as you're saying that, like I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, wrestling is almost in a way, it's kind of the opposite of what you're taught growing up. Like when you're taught growing up when you're a little kid, it's keep your hands to yourself,
Yeah,
right? All right, don't touch like let's not be touching anybody, hands to yourself, quit touching people, quit touching. And then it's like you get him in the wrestling room, it's the opposite. Like you need to touch, you need to like be aggressive and like you're almost taught the
yeah,
opposite when you're growing up. So it's harder. Like I can imagine it being difficult just to get them past that
yeah.
hurdle, you
We
know?
had our youth wrestling camp here in Solon a couple weeks ago, and so we had, I don't know, 60, 70 kids in the wrestling room, and anywhere from preschool up to middle school, and
Mhm.
it was chaos at its finest, I would guess you could say, for sure.
Yeah.
But
How'd that
as
go?
it was good. Good way to just get them involved. And we had a couple of our alums kind of come back and run it, I guess you could say. Zeb Ganida, one of them, All American for Loris, came back and ran kind of the older group, and Seamus Poynton, another alum, ran kind of the younger group. So it was kind of good seeing that two alum that wrestled in college um, come back and kind of promote the sport a little bit. So
Yeah. especially like you said, alum guys who have been through the program have had success and are continuing on to have success. Like almost like this could be you. Like they're looking at future them.
Right.
I guess the kids
Right.
are, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so you're still involved, huh?
Yeah. So I am. When I retired, well, quote, retired from head wrestling, 2020. Yeah, it was year of COVID is when
Right.
that was my last year. Um, I immediately took the middle school job. There was an opening there, and I just said, "Hey, I can't get away from it cold turkey." So I did get away from the high school for that first year or two because I think I just was probably better. So I wasn't there and, you know, being the guy that they were used to. And we were fortunate because Aaron Haydenfeld, TJ Bevins, those two were assistants under myself, and they kind of took over my job, kind of co-coaches for that first year or two.
Mhm.
And Aaron Haydenfeld is still the current head coach. So philosophy wise and all of that, nothing really changed. And I coached them my first stint here in Solon. So um, well familiar with each other. But that first year or two, I just wanted, you know what, it's your program now, you know. But then the last few years, I've been volunteering a lot more on the high school as well too. So can't get away from it, but love doing the middle school because, you know, part of your feeder program for that high school, and I'm there right in the building, so that's helped. So I haven't gotten away completely. You'll still see me at the state tournament and all of that. So
Yeah.
it's been good. It's been good.
So I guess why did you decide to step down? Because like age wise, I mean, you're still relatively young, you know? Like
Yeah.
and you were having such success and you had this it almost
Uh,
seemed like not I mean, it probably wasn't a shock to you, but like other people were like,
right.
wow, wow.
Yeah. That's a
He's,
good question. I mean, I think I was looking 20 21 years as a head coach. And at the time I got out, so I was 23 years total, but 21 as a head coach.
Mhm.
And like I said, I started here in Solon for 4 years and enjoyed it tremendously. I remember after my second year as an assistant right out of college, I was ready. I was ready for a head job. I really wanted one. I was at Wartburg and then went to Center Point, and job opened up in Solon. And kind of a funny story. Ended up getting the job. I had never been in Solon, Iowa in my life, and
I was gonna
drove.
ask how you ended up
Yeah,
there. Like,
no, just saw a head job. I'm like, hey, that's not far from where I'm at. That's down by Iowa City. That might be a pretty good job.
mhm.
Well, Mark Ryland was the coach that had just he was there the 2 years previous to me before he took the Iowa City West job, and so I go down there and interview, and I end up getting the job. So I'm pretty excited, and I think the next week I decide to come down to Solon. I'm like, I got to find a place to live. I don't know anybody here. And so I drive down and I stop at the Casey's or something and get the local paper and open up the paper. And there's this huge article about me, but not really necessarily like a positive article. I was like, what is going on? And so, long story short, they had this wrestling committee formed, and they were going to try to hire, like, somebody like a Ryland, maybe an ex-Hawkeye or somebody that was in
Yeah.
the area.
Mhm.
Well, in the meantime, I came down and interviewed, and they offered me the job, and this committee didn't like that very well. And there was all
Wow.
kinds of print in the newspaper down here in Solon. And I'm like, holy cow, what is going on here? I had no idea, but that was short-lived. And
Yeah.
and once we got rolling, and I think was it my second or third year here, we qualified for the state duels, first time school history, which was pretty big at that time. I mean,
Yeah.
Solon had always had great athletes and great athletics, but wrestling had never really gotten quite to that level. So we got to that level, and it was pretty exciting for that year, and made it to the duels, and got to experience some of that. So that was fun. And then after the 4th year, I mean, I was loving it here. I was like, I could stay here my whole life. I see the Cedar Rapids Prairie job come open, and I'm like, wow, that's really close. That'd be a great job, tradition rich, obviously, Barry Davis, Zalesky's, amongst many others.
Dale Crozier.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I mean, you could go LaGrange's and Kufals. I mean, they on and on.
Yeah.
But so I knew about the program, but honestly didn't know a whole lot about it. I'd spent the last 4 years as a 2A school in Solon, and you don't pay as much attention to the bigger schools when you're doing that. And so I went up there and interviewed, and there were, I don't know, 4 or 5 finalists, and lo and behold, I got the job. And we really didn't even have to move at the time because Solon was so close. I think I ended up moving to Ely, and then my wife, who I had met down here in Solon, she's teacher and coach also in Solon here. She's a head cross country coach and track coach, and
excellent.
She teaches as well too. So we were living in Ely while I was teaching in Prairie, and she was teaching in Solon here, and spent 12 years at Prairie, and again, awesome. I don't think I would have ever dreamed of leaving that. Just like I wouldn't have dreamed of leaving Solon the first time, but did, and had a great run at Prairie. We had some great teams and great individuals, and then this job comes open and back in Solon, and I'm like, and then at the time our kids had started school, and we had decided to bring them to Solon, even though we were in Ely. So we were actually open enrolling them in Solon, and just kind of wanted a smaller school for them. And then this teaching job came open, and I was kind of like, well, I don't know, what do you think? And I think my wife was surprised I was even entertaining it, and then decided to just do it, and then spent five more years as a head coach here, and then before finally giving it up. But yeah, I mean, I had couple dual runner-up teams and a state champion team in 2017, and I had a lot of fun. I mean, I wouldn't change any of those experiences. But as far as getting out, I just kind of felt like it was about that time. And my daughter was in high school, and my son was in middle school. And I just kind of wanted to be more of a parent rather than, the coach or a coach, and missing a lot of that stuff. So I was able to really enjoy my daughter's in college now at Iowa, but got to just enjoy their high school years a little bit more and be able to attend all their activities and not miss stuff.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack there, but the first thing that comes to mind is like, okay, so age wise, like, no, you're not as old as like a Brad Smith. Brad Smith is still doing, he's like 70 something, but you said,
I'll call him old, and he can, I hope he listens. Yeah.
I think I just called him old too. But you coached for a long time. You coached for 20 some years, 21 years. So like longevity wise, you coached for a while,
right?
So like you put in some time. But also what struck me is, as I've talked to plenty of coaches, and in order to be a successful coach in a successful program, you have to put in a lot of hours, more than just the practice time, more than just the tournaments, more than just the duels. Like there's so much more that goes into it, that if you want to have a high level program, like you have to commit a lot. And so like, I can see why, at the end of the day, you're like, man, I've been doing it for 20 some years. Like, it's just time to take a step back because, like I said, you're not just going to school and then going to coach, practice, and then come home. Like there's so much more. There's administrative stuff. There's making sure grades are good academically, all the things on weight. Like there's just recruiting to get kids to even go out for
Yeah.
your school. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but
No,
there's just so
that's true.
much there's just so much that goes into being a successful head coach that people don't see
Yeah.
that, so when somebody says, "Hey, I'm looking to step back," they're like, well, you could still do this for another 20 years. And you're like, dude, I have no idea what I've been doing for the last 20 years. Like, so
No, it's been
anyway,
a good balance, and yeah, do you miss it sometimes? Yes, but like you said, then because it is a year-round commitment, and it is it's constantly on your mind of what's next, and that's given me a little bit more freedom. But I still been able to enjoy, and I like I said, I've done the middle school the past 4 or 5 years since I got out, and actually even did 2 years of middle school girls as well
okay,
too. I had
wow,
never coached girls as well too,
yeah,
so that was kind of fun. And you know, to me, it really, because I've been asked that question
of
more than
course,
once. Like,
yeah,
hey, you know, it's not about like what level or what age that you're coaching. Because a lot of people had said, well, why'd you get out? You had great teams, you had
yeah,
all of this, you had, well, it's not about like that. I mean, obviously that stuff is icing on the cake, and wow, if you have, but to me, the impact you have in whatever age that you're coaching um, is far more valuable than any record or place or whatever else on there. So as long as I feel like I can still make a positive impact at the whatever level I'm doing,
hmm,
I'll keep doing it. And it's been fun. It's been fun. So
yeah,
haven't looked back.
yeah. So the second time you came back to Solon, did they have a better article written about you at the newspaper? Did you stop by Casey's?
I think so. I don't know if I probably had it, but yeah, it was probably much better because I think I was a little bit more established at that time, coming from Prairie for 12 years, and I mean we were around Solon a lot with, like I said, my wife Emmy teaching and coaching, and our kids were in school, and I knew a lot of the people obviously there, so they were ecstatic to get it back. I think they were kind of surprised as well too.
hmm,
Um, you know, TJ Bevins was took over as the head coach a year or two before I came back, and there actually wasn't a position open for wrestling, and he was like, "Dude, if you want it, it's all yours." And that speaks highly of him, of doing that, because he's been the one kind of rock of Solon wrestling ever since I was here the first time. Him as an athlete, and he has been many different coaching roles ever since, and seen 3 or 4 head coaches go through. But um, so that was nice because he didn't have to do that, and
hmm,
that might not have been happened. But yeah, so great experiences at both these schools, no doubt.
yeah. And what led you to leave the first time? You only spent 4 years there.
Yeah,
I don't want to say only, but you spent 4 years there. I'm sure it was kind of a shock to the system, to everybody, when you decided to
yeah. I
leave the
think it
first
was
time.
more just hey, here's a big program, a
Hmm,
tradition-rich program, Cedar Rapids Prairie, and what a great opportunity, and really not have to pack up and move,
yeah,
really. So, and that was the case. And boy, I remember when I got there too, I was kind of naive. I said, like, I didn't follow 3A wrestling much those years, and I didn't realize how, um, I shouldn't, what's the word? Prairie had kind of fallen down quite a bit.
hmm,
And I remember asking some questions in the interviews, and they even had an athlete interview. And I said, "Oh, how'd you guys do last year? How many guys out?" And they were down, down, down. They were, I think he said they were like 4-21 the year before, and they finished like with 18 guys. And I'm like, whoa, this is, Cedar Rapids Prairie.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? And that first year we got in there and those kids just bought into, I mean, I was fortunate because you might think, oh, you're coming into a program that's 4-21,
Mm-hmm.
but the kids that were there because were the greatest kids. I remember that first year we had not many seniors, two or three, maybe four seniors. A couple of them, I think we had one returning qualifier place winner. His name was Charles Showalter. And another one was Zach Covington, who still around and coaches at Big Game. And those two guys, plus a couple of the juniors, Robbie Kramer, and they knew how to work. And I tell you what, they just needed somebody, I think, that could, I don't know, facilitate that. But
Mm-hmm.
we got the best out of those guys. I remember our first dual meet was at home, and I think the JV was wrestling, and our varsity goes up to our wrestling room to start warming up, and JV gets done, and I was helping coach them, and I come up to the wrestling room. I'm like, God, I hope these guys are warmed up, ready to go. And holy cow, every one of them was drenched of sweat. I remember and they were just like hungry, and you could just tell it. And it just kept feeding on. I think that first year we ended up going 21-4. And
Wow.
yeah, and it wasn't necessarily anything I'd say I did or our coaching staff did. It's just those kids just kind of bought into what we were trying to do. And then I think of the 12 years, I think 9 of them we were in the state duels to some aspect.
Yeah.
So we were pretty regulars there, and quite a few top 5 traditional finishes, and it was. And when I left to come back here, we were pretty darn good. There's
Mm-hmm.
no doubt about it. So I think that was even more of a surprise to people to leave that, and it was tough. I mean, anytime you put 12 years in of what you do, and it was tough to say goodbye to those coaches and wrestlers, no doubt. But um, came back to Solon and fit right in there, and had some great teams as well there too, and been it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you remember what you were thinking when, you're talking to this athlete and they're like, well, we won 4 duels last year. We had probably ended the year with 18 kids. I mean, talk about shock. I mean,
Yeah,
like you said, again, 2A and 1A more run together than 3A. 3A
yeah,
kind of at times is kind of in its own class. They
yeah.
don't. So I could totally understand where you're like, I don't really know 3A the landscape. So like I'm just trying to wrap my head around you hear that and you're like, I've already kind of established something here at Solon. Now I'm gonna leave and almost have to turn a program around. Like that takes a lot of energy, effort, and confidence.
It was.
You
I
know?
think a lot of those, and it just like I said, once we got in there and started doing it, I think that first year, I bet we had 30 kids, and but boy, shortly after there, it just kept growing and growing, and we were probably regularly 45, 50 kids, on the team um, throughout most of my tenure there. But it was kind of a shock, but they said, hey, it doesn't matter what happened in the past. And I know some of their kids had in the year previous had transferred out or previous couple years. So they had talent. It just something was missing, and it was fun to get that back to what I remember Cedar Rapids Prairie was like. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you said like, gosh, the coaches staff, we didn't do a whole lot, but what if you could almost kind of pinpoint a couple of things you did do? Because obviously you don't just turn a program from 4-21 or whatever to 21-4 or 21-5. Like you did something.
Yeah.
Coaches did something,
You should
like
ask
what?
some of my athletes. Maybe they could tell you better. I don't know. I think it was obviously the work ethic and all of that, and I think they had that. They really did, but I think they were missing maybe having fun doing it. I think that's
Okay.
what
Yeah.
I think that was a big thing that was missing maybe when I came, and then they started. Obviously, they were working hard, and then they started winning, and obviously, winning is fun, and it
Yep.
makes it a lot easier to have fun when you're winning. But it just they just fed off each other, and there would be practices where I wouldn't have to do a whole lot of motivation because those couple seniors that were there my first year, if somebody was slacking off, they would get right in their face and basically tell them off and say, you know what, you guys. And then that was a sign of a true leaders. And then each year it just seemed like that kept building and building and building, and yeah, had a like I said, a lot of good teams, a lot of great wrestlers up there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. The ones that stick out to me, I remember Jake Rizzio,
Yeah.
um, Tyler Harden.
Yeah.
Were there twins?
They
Was
were
there
brothers.
brothers?
Yeah,
Okay,
Harden
there's
brothers. Yep.
Tyler. Yeah.
Trevor. Yep.
Trevor. Yes. Um, of course, now I'm not gonna remember any of the other ones, but like those are the ones that really stick out to me. I
Yeah.
remember Harden taking Nick Moore toe to toe.
Oh yeah. We had I think we wrestled him 4 times that year, and each time it
Really?
just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And I think semifinals, I think it was. Oh, I thought we were going to get him. I thought we were, and it was so close. But he was such a funky wrestler, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean there are so many names to talk about up there. Zach Witt was one 2 time
Yeah. Yep. Robbie
state
Kramer
champ.
rings a bell too.
Robbie
Robbie
Kramer,
Kramer.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was an multi-time All-American at Co. Um, Skylar St. John, Trey Blaha, Josh Wenger, state national champ at
Oh yeah.
Grandview.
Yep.
Yeah, I hate to say names because I'm going to leave some of them
Of
out,
course. Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, and each one of those had great stories among themselves, and yeah, it was fun to coach each and every one of those. Skylar, he probably won't like me saying this if he listens to this stuff, but I tell you what, it just made it rung a bell when I said his name. Um, Probably the toughest performance I've ever seen from one of my. Well, I should take that back. I got two off the top of my head. I might have to get back to the second one too. But Skylar St. John was he was a junior at the time. State tournament. First day, he goes out and he beats his kid, and goes back to the hotel, and starts getting sick, starts throwing up, starts doing all night, throwing up constantly. And I couldn't go in the room. I have a weak stomach if I did that. So I had one of my assistants, thank goodness. I told him to sleep with him, not with him, but in the same room with him.
Right.
So he's staying up all night with him, puking. We get next morning, we got to get back to state tournament, and he can barely get out of bed. We kind of carry him to the van. He's puking on his way out to the van. We get him down to the tunnel where the weigh-in is. We're holding him, or he's laying there. He can't move. Get him up to the scale. I can't remember if he was 145 at that time. I think he was. But I think we got him on the scale, and he was like 135, maybe. He was he was under the weight class below him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, we got to do something, because I said, I'm going to go find the training staff and give you an IV or something. He's like, no, I don't like needles. And I'm like, sorry, Skylar. It's like, you either do this or you're not going to be able to move. So we coaxed him into it, and he got IV for about next hour, just trying to get something in him.
Mm-hmm.
And goes out and wrestles his quarterfinal match, wins. I don't know how. He had zero energy. I think I remember the third period, he looked over at me and he's like, where do you want me to go? And we're like, just go top and just hang on. And that's what he did. And he won. And then after that match, I think that was the day we had, maybe it was I think it was that night, the semifinals. He went to the hospital and got more IVs, got all this. Lost a close one in the semis, but came back. I think he got 5th that year. But lots of times when my guys ask, if you're not feeling good, I kind of tell them that kind of story because I remember all the wrestlers that were weighing in were looking at him going like, what is going on? But there's a true testament of, doesn't matter. You're not going to be 100% all the time. He wasn't even 20%, let alone, but there was an example. And another great example that I'll give now that I think of that is, so back here at Solon, and we're wrestling in 2017, and that was when the year we won it, and won it by 0.5 point over New Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
It was a crazy traditional tournament. Well, anyways, one of our wrestlers, Grayson Dahl, he was, I think he was a 2-time qualifier. About a month to go in the season, he broke his leg, fractured it. And we're like, oh, he's done. Well, he kept hinting, I want to try it. I want to try to come back. And we're like, well, I don't know about that. And we got clearance from parents and all of that. So he qualifies. I think he got 2nd in districts. I don't even know if we wrestled the championship match. I can't remember. And he goes down there with a broken leg, and first round, he gets a pin for us. So he gets 2 bonus points and his advancement point right there. And then next match, he got into a scramble, and next thing you know, he's screaming and defaulted out of the tournament. But there was an example of, wow, without him wanting to do that, we wouldn't have won that state title.
Yeah.
So those are 2 pretty good examples of, I would say, toughness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from some of our athletes that we try to instill.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mean go out and wrestle with a broken leg. That was out of, but man, how cool is that?
Yeah. What about you? Do you have anything that comes to mind that I know we talked a little bit about your adversity, like your senior year at state, that you lost first round, had to come back. I mean, did you have anything like that sticks out from your own experience?
Yeah, I guess after Decorah, I went to Wartburg and wrestled
How did you end up at Wartburg to begin with?
So let's see. As my senior year was going, I kind of knew I wanted to keep wrestling. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I think it was narrowed down to Wartburg, Buena Vista, or possibly UNI. And I think me not winning a state title, UNI didn't hear much from them anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of BV and Wartburg. And
was Al Baxter at BV?
Yeah, that was Baxter still. Oh yeah.
Oh geez. Wow.
And I was actually pretty much set on going to BV. I went out there and I registered for my classes, did some scholarship essays or whatnot, and I was set. And I had my mind made up. And then Coach Miller calls me shortly after. I can't remember what time of the year, spring. And he says, hey, I'm going to come up to Decorah. I want to visit with you. And so he comes up for an in-home visit. And it's me and my mom and dad and him. And he, tell you what, as soon as he left, first thing I said to my parents was, I'm going to Wartburg. And I felt the hardest part was telling Coach Baxter, because I really enjoyed him. And he was a great coach and great guy. But It was something about Millboy that just, I was ready to wrestle right then and there. And so ended up going there. And interesting story, like I was a 160 pounder my senior year, and I was still growing. And I was like, I'll probably be 77 pounder or so. And I get there and I probably weighed about 80, 85 and started getting in the room. And our 90 pounder at that time, his name was John Dolly. He was a 4-time All-American, was awesome. Well, he only had a half a year eligibility left. So he couldn't wrestle in the first half of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So they told me, hey, you're our 90 pounder this year. I'm like, 90? Holy cow. So, but I wrestled the whole first half of the year at 190, probably weighing about 190.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these guys are probably cutting down from 215, 220.
Yeah.
And then when he came back at the semester, I went down and was a 77 pounder and wrestled there. And you talk about some adversity. So my freshman year, wrestling in the national tournament, I think I know I got beat in the blood round. And so I didn't place. And that year, maybe an interesting fact, that year is the last year a Berg did not win a national title, Wartburg or Augsburg.
Mm-hmm.
John Dolly, our 90 pounder, was in the national finals, and he was wrestling a guy from Ithaca, and we were both like tied. Basically, whoever wins that match wins the national title. And went to double overtime. He had to get out, and that Ithaca guy just kept dropping to a leg, dropping to a leg, dropping to a leg. We didn't get out. We didn't win. We got second. And so Ithaca wins. Sophomore year, I qualified for nationals, again, did not place. And that was kind of a turning point, I think, for me. And our team did not.
Were you at 77 at that point
I
still?
was at,
or yeah, 77.
No, I went back up to
Okay.
90 because that he had graduated. So now I'm a 90 pounder for the rest of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And did not place. And our team, I think, boy, I'd have to ask. I think we got like 4th or 5th, which was obviously not. I mean, at that time it was still great for that because we hadn't won a national title yet at Wartburg.
Right. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, we were close. We were really close. But considering how close we were the year before. And then my junior year, that's the year we won it. And that was junior year. I think I got 5th that year. Adversity, semifinal loss again. I had a kind of a nemesis in college. His name was Dan Lewandowski from Augsburg. I think he ended up winning it 2 or 3 times. I could just never get it done against him. And the closest time it was in the semifinals. I think it was a 1-point match. And then I think lost a close one in the consolations again. But then my 5th place match, I remember, and this is kind of a cool story too. The same guy that had knocked me out of the blood round my freshman year, I'm wrestling for 5th. He's from Plymouth. And I remember he was kind of a big move type guy, kind of a junk wrestler. And he tried something on me, and I caught him on his back and pinned him. And that was the first time that we, I think, had taken the lead in that tournament. Because it was, the end of the consolation round. All that was left was the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we got 1 or 2 champs that year and ended up winning it and won the first title of, geez, how many do they have now? I don't know. I've lost track. Yeah. So, and then my senior year, and this is where the adversity even more I'm talking about. So that Lewandowski's back and he's ranked number 1. And I don't know for sure because I don't probably rank 2nd or 3rd or somewhere around that line. And I got hurt in mid-January, and my season was done. I couldn't compete in my senior year. So that was tough because mentally, but it kind of, you can use that story of, saying, you just never know. You always hear coaches or say, wrestle like it's your last match. Wrestle. You never know when your last match is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea when my last match was going to be. And so it was tough watching that last part. But I guess all of those experiences from myself and my coach, it just has kind of fueled my coaching career, I guess you could say, and use those to my experience to pass on to the athletes that I was able to coach to, past 20, 25, 28 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So,
what were your expectations when you got into that Wartburg room? You got sixth and then third, and now all of a sudden you're starting at Wartburg, and now
Yeah.
you're one match shy of being an All-American. I mean, there seemed to be a lot of progression, a lot of growth there. I mean, did you have expectations or goals at that point?
That's a good, I mean, it's so dang long ago, Kelby. I can't
Yeah.
really remember, but I remember going into that room confident, but like, okay, this is college and
Hmm.
these guys have been good the last couple of years. And one thing Millboy, I remember, always said to me in the recruiting, he goes, I saw you lose that heartbreaking match first round and wrestle back and get third place. That's the type of kid I want. And he goes, if you want to be a national champion, All American on a national championship team, you better come here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming, you know. And so had a lot of great teammates there, obviously, and coaches. And so I was blessed to have great coaches. My dad in high school and Coach Miller in college. But yeah, I remember when that 90 pounder came back, first match ever coming back. He couldn't be in the room the first semester, so I didn't even know the guy.
Yeah.
I just knew he was a 3-time All-American. He was pretty dang good. And we go to Florida to some duels over Christmas.
Hmm.
And that's the first time I actually got to wrestle him. And I knew what the plan was. I was going to go to 77 and he was going to be 90. But I was like, I'm not going to back down to this guy. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
And so we're in this little cracker box high school wrestling room somewhere in Florida. Yeah, I mean, a third of the size of our room. And I remember I'm wrestling him and I'm like, I'm not going to let up. There's no way. And we're getting up against walls and I'm still going. And he's kind of like looking at some of the coaches going, who is this guy? Come on. But that was kind of the mentality you kind of needed.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it was, it was a great experience at Wartburg, no doubt, which I think led to even more passion of my coaching career after that.
Yeah. And that, I thought it was interesting that you were a part of the very first
Yeah.
national championship team.
Yeah. Every once in a while we have reunions up there and,
Yeah.
um, that first national championship team or whatever, he always called us like the pioneers or the trailblazers. Cause
Yeah.
once we did it and then it just got on a roll and it was mainly just a bunch of guys from Northeast Iowa, really, at that time. It really was. There were a few, but man, I mean, I think of guys that were our teammates and a lot of Iowa guys, and um, now I think recruiting world's a lot different, and you're getting kids from all over the country. But yeah, it was just for the most part, a bunch of us Northeast Iowa guys.
Yeah. And the cherry on top was being an All-American yourself. I mean, just throughout all of it, the battles, the trials, the tribulations, to come away with some hardware at a national tournament, I mean, had to be pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah, it was, I mean, bittersweet. You wanted more,
Right.
obviously,
Of
but
course.
another funny story with that one, I remember. It's kind of funny bringing back memories that I haven't even thought about. So you're doing a good job of doing this. But my dad was still coaching at Decorah at the time, and they were in the state duels again, and so this tournament was, where was it? In New York, Cortland, New York, and my whole family comes out and so it's a Friday, Saturday tournament, the D3. I think it's still that way. And the semifinals are Saturday morning. Well, my dad came out, but got a flight back by himself to get back for the state duels because that's on Saturday as well too. So he got to
Oh,
come
wow.
out and see me um, the first round in the quarters, and then flew back. And I think their team got second in state that year in the duels to Assumption or something. But that was a good memory having brothers and family and mom there as well.
You couldn't stick around?
No, yeah, he
Oh
wanted
my
to. He
gosh.
wanted to, but I don't know. You got to be in the state duels. You better make sure you're there. So, and that was a huge snowstorm. I think on the way back from that too. That the rest of my family had to try to get through, and I don't know. We flew out, so we were able to dodge that somehow. But man, it was a lot of good memories.
Yeah. Did you always know you want to get in coaching?
Yeah, I think so. Just being around, seeing how my dad was a teacher and coach,
Hmm.
and how much like influence he had on kids of all ages, and he coached multiple sports as well too. I think it was always something that I thought I wanted to do, and it was either that or sports broadcasting. That was my two.
Yep. Yep.
And but now I get to live a little of that because I'm kind of the online live stream for the football games at home at Solon. So
Hey,
I
okay,
get to do a
cool,
little bit of
cool.
both. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a football team. I mean, they're good. Solon, I mean, even when I was growing up, like Solon was like they were always the team to beat. And I think you were at Prairie at the time.
Yeah.
But man, they were good. Because that was like James Morris and I
Oh
think
yeah.
Hannes was on that team. I
Yep.
think he was the quarterback. But anyway, man.
They had a good string of runs, that's for sure. Yeah.
Were you
So
jealous at times? Like you're at Prairie and you're like, I could be coaching those guys. Those could be my guys. And you're at
no, I
Prairie.
never really thought it that way. I was always just kind of living in the moment and saying, but yeah. So it was miss some of those guys, especially I
Yeah.
remember leaving Solon. They were not some of those boys were not. Cody Kroll was a
Oh,
state
right.
champ in Solon,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and I left with him and Aaron Haydenfeld, who's the coach now, but before their senior year, and I just remember they were not happy that I was leaving, not happy with me, and kind of, but they got over it. We still, obviously, with Aaron, but even Cody, stay in touch, and that's kind of the coolest thing of to me. We touched on it earlier about I'm not a big record guy or wins and losses guy or all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of that you know relationships you build with those kids that
Yeah.
especially when they become adults and they do stay in touch with you and they you know might get invited to a wedding here or or they come back in town for Solon beef days and you start remembering all the memories and all that kind of stuff. That to me is like the most valuable part of it.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna ask you about Solon Beef Days because it's next month or it's coming up here.
Yeah.
Solon Beef Days, how freaking cool! I haven't been. I think I want to go this year. My goal is to go this year. But how cool is Solon Beef Days? Like,
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. You need to get down here. If you do, let me know.
the
I'll
toss into
take
the hay bale
yeah.
is the
And
thing I
that's
want to
fairly
watch.
yeah, that's been probably what 10 years now, but yeah, they've had some pretty impressive champions to say the
Yes,
least.
yeah.
Um in that, but Tyler Linderbaum, one of our wrestlers that I coached at Solon, he won it one year, and
Hmm.
I think Tristan Wirfs was been there. Every year, there's always Hawkeye football players down there doing
Yeah.
it. As
Have
long
you
as
ever
they're
done
allowed.
it?
No,
No.
no, those days long past. I would need a very small bail right now.
What's it like? Like what is that's all I can really think of with Solon Beef Days. Like what do they have like a concert? I mean,
Oh
what
yeah,
is
it's
Solon Beef Days, I guess? Okay.
live music pretty much all day. It's your normal, carnival and parade and but there's all kinds of things. We used to run the bags tournament as a wrestling
Oh, there you go.
there was one there. We used to run that all the time. So there's all kinds of stuff, but yeah, it's if you haven't got to it, you should get to it sometime. And if you do,
Yeah.
let me know.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll hook you up.
Speaking of Linderbaum, I was like the wheels started turning about when you came back. Did you wrestle with him a whole lot?
Well, so a funny story with Tyler. When I came back, he was just entering his sophomore year. And as a freshman, he played basketball. He did not wrestle. He did not wrestle. And I knew Tyler a little bit and knew his dad more. But anyways, one of the first things I did when I come back is like, I need to try to talk to Tyler into coming out for wrestling. And he was actually a pretty good basketball player.
I was going to ask how good he was.
Yeah. I mean, he'd probably tell you he was really good, but I'm sure he was pretty good underneath. Not many people would mess with him in the paint, but he decided not to go out for basketball. And so that's when I really pursued. And it was the summer. It was open rooms. I mean, getting to know the kids. And I'm trying to get Tyler up there, and he wouldn't come up there. And finally, I told him, I said, hey, come on up. We're just going to roll around a little bit, and then we're going to have a little bags tourney with the team. So he came up, and we had some fun. And well, anyways, he decided to go out and was able to coach him for his sophomore, junior, senior year, wrestling wise. But talk about the tenacity and the just not going to lose mentality, which obviously has gotten him very far. But you saw that even at young age with him. He wasn't necessarily a great wrestler, just a great athlete, and who learned how to wrestle and was a two-time place winner and really, really close to maybe winning it. His senior year was really close, but got third. But yeah, there's just another example of all kinds of kids that we've coached that have been awesome to work with.
Yeah. I mean, what's it like trying to coach an athlete of that caliber,
Yeah. I mean, at that time, you just knew he was a great athlete. In his sophomore year, I don't think he was much more than 215 pounds. I think I do remember he was like 220, and we were like, oh, do we try to just have him wrestle 215? But he was already starting to get like looks. I do remember another funny story with him, his junior year. So him and Tristan were, you probably seen from online stuff. They wrestled a lot, and there's always that. Tyler only beat him that one time in that regional duel. I don't like admitting that, but I know a lot of the things you see online, you see him pinning Tristan. That was the only time Tyler beat him. It was a great match. But the year before, they're wrestling. I think we were in Benton Community. It was a double duel, so we're wrestling Benton, then we wrestle Mount Vernon there. And Tyler and Tristan are wrestling. Well, at that time, Tristan, I think, had already committed to Iowa. And Coach Ferentz is there in the front row watching. And so Tristan, and I think they were looking at Tyler too, but Tristan had already committed. And I remember Tyler shooting like a blast double on Tristan and just driving him all the way out of, I didn't get a takedown, but just drove him all the way out of bounds. And they landed basically in the front row right by Coach Ferentz. And I remember basically whispering to my assistant coach at the time, well, if they don't like Tyler now, I don't think they ever will. I said, he'll get an offer here shortly. And sure enough, he did. And, rest is history. But that was kind of a funny story with that aspect of it.
Were you around, or you might have been in Prairie at this time, when the McElravy boys were around?
They were. None of them wrestled.
Yeah. I wondered, how much.
Yeah.
I thought they played basketball.
I think they
maybe
did.
Tennis.
Yeah. I think golf maybe was one, too. And one was a good basketball player. Yeah. I missed most of them. I think one I was here for a couple of years, but yeah. I think a lot of people ask that too, surprise. And being a dad, I understand how that works. You don't want to force your kids to do anything. And I think they did a good job of letting them find what they were passionate about. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know if you ever had any, if you crossed paths with them or ever put a bug in there, you're like,
Yeah.
but
No, I think I'd miss those years. I think
yeah,
Lincoln came up a couple of times to the wrestling room. It might have been before I came back though, or maybe my first year just to like do a little guest clinician or something. But
yeah.
yeah,
Um, I wanted to touch on before I let you go about that 2017 team.
yeah,
I mean, uh, you know, when you have a school like Solon who's had some success but never that to that level, like I'm just, oh, how did you get them to believe that they could do something that they had never done before? That's always difficult. Getting people to believe that this is achievable, even though you haven't done it yet, you can do it. You just have to,
yeah.
you have to
I
get
think they
there.
just, yeah, that's a good question. I think they wrestled for each other a lot and didn't want to let each other down. I mean, again, it was kind of the same stories I told with the Prairie. We had guys in that room that if you weren't giving it your best, you didn't have to have a coach ream you. One of those seniors or leaders were going to ream you, you know. And we had talked about that throughout the season and had a great run. And back then it was the duels were still the day before the state, which I think my first few, the first one at Solon and the first 4 or 5 at Prairie, it was always the week after.
Yeah, yep,
And
yep.
that was good and bad. But and then halfway through my Prairie reign, especially when we were getting there most years, it was always the day before. And I remember that first one, and you kind of probably remember how, that there were teams that weren't putting out their lineups and
Yeah,
and that
yep,
and that went on for years.
yep.
And for the most part, we never did that. We went until at least we lost, and then if you lost, but I got sidetracked from that. But yeah, so that year 17, we were in the state dual finals against New Hampton, and I do remember kind of dissecting the lineups and the matchups and all that stuff, and I'm like, man, if we can get the flip, I think we got a good chance. And we didn't get the flip. And I just knew it was going to be very hard for us matchup wise. We tried to bump a few guys around and stuff, and it just didn't quite work. And so we got second, and the kids were pretty emotional. I remember that team, but we had to get ready, the next day. Here we go.
That's tough.
And yeah, it was. And I tell you, I mean, you could go up and down the lineup that year, but when you win by a half a point, truly every point, every half a point matters.
Right.
And coaches say that all the time. And then that was a perfect example of it. And we had I mean, every guy on the team obviously scored points, but how they scored points was just amazing. I remember Ben Carr, um, he ended up third place and with multiple falls in the background. And here was a guy that was, I think, maybe ranked 10th at the time. Maybe I don't remember, but there was an example, and he didn't only win, he was, man, scrambling like crazy. And all of a sudden, he'd look over. We'd have multiple guys wrestling. I'd look over and I'd see Ben Carr had a guy on his back. I'm like, oh my! And then we'd be watching. And all of a sudden, we'd see a New Hampton guy lose or something, and we'd be like, wow, this is pretty exciting. And then it came down to obviously in the finals, and when our guys were done, we were done, and we were ahead, but New Hampton had one more guy left, and so it was out of our hands. And
Oh, that's
yeah, so it was a 160 pounder, and our 60 pounder, Trevor Nelson, he got sixth that year, which was disappointing to him, but he had beaten him the day before in the state duels.
mhm.
And so now we're really cheering against this guy. And it was, Trevor had gotten beat by Broderson, Julian Broderson, when he was a sophomore, the first of his 3 titles. real close semifinal match, which was heartbreaking in itself. But now we're like the biggest Davenport Assumption fans, and we couldn't do anything about it. And I do remember the media room down in Wells Fargo underneath there. I just decided to go into this media room with all these media people, and I just sat down at like a little computer screen, and they had the television on. So I'm just sitting in there, kind of, it's all silent in there, and I'm just kind of watching this match going, oh, I don't know. And then, um, Broderson ends up beating the New Hampton kid, and we end up winning by half a point.
Wow.
It's crazy. And I think they had another finalist that if he would have got a major decision, it would have got over our half point. He only won by like 7, instead of the 8.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, it was crazy. So we had obviously a lot of luck, but you got to have some of that in a tournament like that.
Gosh. Did you, going into the state tournament, did you know, like, we have a good chance? And then as it was going along, were you paying attention? Or, I've talked to some coaches who, like, they didn't pay too much attention. It's like, we're just out here to wrestle and let the chips fall where they may. And next thing you know, they look up and they're like, whoa, we got a shot here.
Yeah, I don't think we really paid attention until probably that Saturday consolation round. And then you knew, okay, I think we were leading after the first day, and everybody was like, oh, that's great, that's awesome. But we were like, we didn't even talk about it, type thing. And then that Saturday afternoon is when everything kind of separated, and you're kind of like, okay, here we go. Every point does matter. And it sure did that year.
How euphoric was it when, that's the bittersweetness of the sport. Obviously, you don't like it when the other kids lose. Like, you're not actively cheering for that kid to lose,
Right.
But if he does, that means you win a state title. Like, but how sweet was it that, like, all that work you put in, all the work that your kids put in, the community, the parents, everybody, and you finally come home with this state traditional title.
Well, I think the most rewarding part of that was, if you have been to Solon or been in the Solon gymnasium, they have the state championship banners of I think state championship and state runner-up of any team that's ever been first or second in the state. And at that time, wrestling wasn't up there. And it's been up there a few times now because we had a couple runner-up dual finishes, one that year and one, I think 2 years later, we were dual runner-ups as well too. But now you look across that gym and it's dang near every sport has banners, and that's pretty cool. And to know that, hey, wrestling is a part of that and that rich tradition. Because most people like you, when you hear Solon, you're like, oh, they've had some great athletic teams, and now wrestling has definitely been in that mix, now. So it's kind of cool to see that, along with all obviously the football and cross country and track and basketball and you name it, all those banners that are up there. It's pretty cool.
I feel like they've had some good baseball teams too.
Baseball, yeah, baseball. They had, I think, 3 years in a row state title, I think.
Yeah.
Back in that 08, 09, 10, I believe. So yeah, it's been it's just great to be a part of, and it's been fun for sure.
Yeah, and you said they have some cross country banners up there, huh?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
My
wife
go.
had a few of those for sure too. And track, they've had some loaded track teams in the last few years, and yeah, it's like I said, dang near every sport has something.
What's in the water?
I don't know.
No, you do know. You just won't tell us. Okay. Yeah, Solon, like, it's not an overly large town, but gosh, they just breed athletes.
Yeah. Got a good strength and conditioning program and good, off-season programs that help. And I don't know, maybe it's that middle school PE teacher.
Oh, that's where it all starts,
Yeah.
It starts in middle school, so it makes sense.
Yeah, no, they were good way before I came. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, lastly, I wanted to ask you about a former wrestler of yours, because I'm just genuinely curious what happened and where he's at and how he's doing.
Huh?
His name's Hayden Taylor.
Yeah.
He was on his quest for four,
Yeah.
and uh, you know, what kind of happened there? Because I know he was battling shoulder injury, and
Yeah.
I was just excited to see kind of where he landed next. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I guess.
So when I got out after his sophomore year.
Okay.
That was when I retired. So he had won two, and
Hmm.
then the next year he had won a third one, and then that fourth year he was battling shoulder injury
Right.
terribly, and he had kind of made up the decision that he was not going to wrestle that senior year, and he had come to, I think, peace with it, and we
Was he
had
going to
to.
retire? Was it like,
Well, he was just going to get his surgery and get it done with,
okay.
so he could hopefully wrestle in college.
Yeah.
And then I think he got. I mean, it's a long story, and I don't want to get too detailed into it, but I think he just um, had a change of heart, and maybe got some other messages and wanted to wrestle, and um, ended up leaving Solon that last year, and never did end up wrestling that senior year. I know this year, I think he was wrestling at Iowa Central a little bit because I think he finally started getting healthy again and stuff. But
Okay.
I did see a few matches where he wrestled, so
Okay.
he's trying to get himself back. But I haven't. I don't know if he finished the season or not. But yeah, so it was a great talent, no doubt about it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I was seriously just genuinely curious. Not too long ago, I talked to Joel Jesseroga and
uh-huh.
asked him about Nate, because like
Yeah,
genuine, like, and he's out in the Navy, out in Virginia, I believe. So like,
yeah.
just because they leave the sport doesn't mean we forget about him, And so
No,
same with Hayden Taylor, I mean, like you said, there was potential there and he was good. And I know he was battling some stuff, but then I don't want to say he just disappeared, but at the same time, he didn't see much from him. So I was just curious, like if you, yeah, had any idea
he
if he's
stayed in a
still,
little contact. I know when he wrestled this season, a few matches, we were actually, can't remember what tournament we were at, but we actually pulled it up on Flow and watched him wrestle a couple matches. And
okay, cool.
I texted him and told him, "Hey, I'm glad to see you back on the mat and all that." And
Right. Yeah.
but then I didn't see him compete much more after that. So not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, that's too bad. You never want a wrestler to, go through something like that, but fortunately, it's the way of the sport.
yeah, it is. Like injuries are brutal, and I I lived it myself, in college, and nothing's worse than when you see your athletes not being able to uh, compete because of injury,
Yeah.
because of all the hard work you put into it, and it doesn't just have to be wrestling. It could be, um, you know, any sport or any
Right. Yeah.
circumstance. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you this before you go. You look over the course of your career, 21 years, of coaching, like 400 some wins, some state, a traditional state title at Solon that never happened before. You took them to you kind of revitalized Cedar Rapids Prairie. I mean, do you ever just take a step back and kind of look over your wrestling coaching career and maybe just wrestling as a whole and be like, I did good. Pat yourself on the back, kind of, just a little bit.
uh, no, not really. I always kind of, I guess when I was coaching, I always just said, okay, what's next? I got to get ready for the next one. And now it's
Mhm.
just kind of like, even now, I'm like, oh, well, what's next? If I'm going to do this middle school again, I better get these kids ready. So it's just like, no, like I said, those things are great, but nothing compares to like what the relationships and that influence that you have on those kids are. That's, you know, molding them into what they become, and hopefully they become, great employees, great fathers, great, husbands, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, is there one that, or maybe not just a single one, but are there a couple that stick out to you over the course of your coaching career that like, I don't want to say makes you extra proud, but that stick out in terms of like, this is a great story of a kid who bought in and had, and this is what happened type of deal?
Well, maybe not specifically one, but I can remember, especially at Cedar Rapids Prairie, we had a number of kids that we wrestled for that never were varsity until their senior year, and then they placed in the state tournament their senior year. I think we had at least
Wow.
4 or 5 of those kids because we had a pretty deep teams, and them just, buying their time and putting in the work and trusting in the, everything. And then they finally get their shot and boom, they become a state place winner their senior year, first year on varsity. To me, that's, I'm pretty proud of those type of stories. And I give a lot of respect to kids that, especially in wrestling, that, may never see the varsity lineup. And if you have a senior that's gone through 4 years of wrestling and they never wrestled varsity, I got a great respect for those kids, a great respect for those kids, because there's a lot of other things that they could be doing that's, one, a lot easier, two, probably a little bit more fun for them because they're probably, getting beat on quite a bit. So those are to me, the special examples.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Special thanks to my guest, Blake Williams, for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. Cover art created and designed by Kristen Gill. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe to this podcast. You can also check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and my Facebook page to hear more of my content. And if you prefer the video, you can head to my YouTube channel. It's just Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. And don't forget, you can also check out my website, which has all this information on it, at letstalkwrestlingpodcast.my.canva.site. And as always, be sure to tune in to hear the next guest of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Take care. See you next time.